We're in Miami. We're fortunate enough to be Dimelo 305, and we like to highlight what's happening in Miami. One of the interesting things and phenomena that is currently happening in the music industry is the evolution of salsa as a whole. And we decided to have a show with two of his best. We're fortunate to get him here at the same time, in the same place, smoking a cigar.
We have the pleasure, the honor of being among, really musical geniuses. So we thank you so much for your time. We have different decades being represented, different styles, different ideas, different concepts, different countries. And it's beautiful that we get to come together, Puerto Rico, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Miami. That's Miami for you, right? Melting pot.
It's a melting pot, man. That's what it is.
So gentlemen, no one can introduce you better than you can. And we can start to our right, Mr. Marlow. Let the people know who you are.
You want me to tell you who I am?
Tell us who you are,
Come
brother.
on, man.
Tell us who you are, brother. You need no introduction.
Why don't I introduce Mottif and then Mottif? Because I got beautiful things to say about Mottif. I can say that first, it's a pleasure to be here, sitting with you. I think I told you these words, and I really mean these. I mean these words. I think Mottif is the promise of our genre. I think that everybody, many years ago, we had a group of people doing this, and that was passed over to us, right? And I think that just in a very natural way, it's going to the new guys, and I consider you to be one of the guys that's going to carry the torch for many years to come. Extremely creative. I mean, you can just take a look at him, and he's, the beauty of this is that, and this I love this. You look at him, he looks like a rocker, he looks like reggaeton, but he represents our music, salsa, and this is where we need to take our genre. And I think you're the man to carry the torch, bro. De verdad, con cariño.
That was beautiful. From the heart. I love that idea. So, your turn.
Man,
Let's see. Tell us who do we have here?
Let me tell you something. It's truly a privilege, when I got the call. Oh no, actually talked about this at some point.
Talked about it.
And you mentioned this gentleman here. I jumped right away. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about the industry, when we talk about art, when we talk about musicianship, when we talk about a career, we have people that we look up to. You know what I'm saying? And me personally, being a musician first, in this town, there's a few names, that have, resounded within the industry and the scene here in Miami. And Marlow is definitely one of those people. And I had the pleasure of meeting him many years back, and we had an amazing conversation the first time we met. And, I always, walk into these conversations with people like Marlow, like as a student, you know what I'm saying? And it was incredibly humbling, how cool he was, and the amazing conversation that we had. And then for years to follow, we've kept in touch, and we've had an amazing conversation. And to sum it up, man, he's a legend. We have a legend sitting here that sat down with many legends. And thank you, bro, for being so open with me and allowing me. Like we've sat in the studio for hours and talked and showed each other stuff. And he's always shown that love, for what we're doing, and I appreciate that, bro. Thank you for real.
Qué bueno.
I love your story of how you started, like who you opened for at the beginning of your career. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I have an uncle. I have him, even though he passed away. This is the guy that's with me all the time. He's the one that introduced me to salsa. He's not a musician. He was a Vietnam vet. And I have his collection of records. It's over 5,000 salsa records and I have them in the studio. And everything you can imagine is there on vinyl. And era tan fiebre, we can go to Spanish and really good.
Yeah,
Él
this
era
is
tan
Miami.
fiebre que cuando yo estaba chamaco, 16 años, nosotros teníamos una casita de madera en la 36 y la 24 del Northwest. y teníamos un garaje bien viejo. Y había un pianista que se llamaba Félix Feble. Él era el director de Héctor Lavoe. Ellos ensayaban en el garaje de mi casa. Ya yo estaba tocando piano. Como 16 años.
We're not gonna ask what year that was. We're not gonna go there.
15, 16 años. So, yo tuve el privilegio de... El primer artista que yo acompañé, el primero, fue Santito Colón. El segundo artista que yo acompañé, que es el más conocido. Porque tú dices Santito Colón, a lo mejor hay mucha gente que no... So, realmente el primero súper conocido así fue Héctor Lavoe. So, fue uno de, ¿cómo te digo? Empezar mi carrera oficialmente en la salsa con un cantante como Héctor Lavoe, es como que ya te pusieron el cuño, ya, you know. Y yo no cobré ese día. Yo no cobré porque Héctor me dijo que qué más yo quería. You know, ¿qué más tú quieres? Yo, chamaco, yo no me sabía defender y me fui sin cobrar, pero toqué con Héctor. Y cuando yo me siento aquí y lo digo, eso fue lo que él me pagó. Poder decir eso para el resto de mi vida.
No te pagaron en dinero, but you left with your pockets full of experience.
I left with this story that'll follow me forever. I mean, I started my career playing with Héctor, and Larry Harlow ended his career making his last record with me. So I started with Fania, and I was the last artist signed to Fania. And, you know, I did the last record Larry Harlow did was for me. Larry Harlow was the only person who ever played a guitar on stage with salsa. It's very difficult, and you can appreciate this. No puedes montunear con un guitar.
You need both hands.
Right.
Para el montuno del piano, you need both hands.
Tell the people what montuno is in case they may not know.
Bueno, básicamente el montuno es el ritmo del piano que acompaña a la percusión, o sea, el rhythm section por lo general es el piano, el bajo, conga, bongo, timbales. Y el montuno como tal, el patrón del montuno se toca a las dos manos, por lo general, que por eso es difícil.
Sin embargo, Larry Harlow con la Fania, él era judío. Bien interesante. Esto es un árbol que se puede ir tiene un montón de branches. La música de nosotros, la salsa, ¿verdad? En gran parte viene de las manos de un judío americano, porque Larry fue una gran influencia.
Cheers.
Tanto como el rock americano, el heavy metal americano, lo que the hip bopping rock and roll, Dude Looks Like a Lady, Living on a Prayer, Kiss the Rain, Pink is My Favorite Color, is all written by a Cuban guy named Desmond Child. So that's crazy that a Cuban guy influenced American rock as much as an American judío influenced salsa. Isn't that crazy?
Crazy. I had never thought about it that way. That's crazy.
That guitar, just to finish the story, that guitar, which he made very famous because he was the only one that played it. There's pictures of him and Stevie Wonder, Stevie at the piano and Larry with the guitar. Before he died, he asked me to come to New York because he wanted to talk to me about something. And when Larry told me, come to New York, I'd be on the next plane to New York. And when I got there, he says, go under there and get that black bag. So I got it. Open it. It was the guitar. So that's yours. You guys have seen it. It's in my studio. And he signed it. You know, these are special moments, right? Because to have been able to play with Santito Colón, with Hector, to have been able to do this record with Larry, and then to have such a salsa memorabilia. It's
So I gotta ask you guys, you know, oftentimes we hear the word salsa, salsa, salsa. If you could describe, if you could describe salsa as a genre, as an art form, how would you describe it?
Funny enough, I posted something today on my Instagram about it today, and where, you know, the word salsa obviamente, you know, comes from like a mush. It's almost like putting a pot and putting a bunch of things in there, like, you know, Latin jazz and son and, like, you know, a bunch of different Afro-Cuban or Afro-influenced patterns of music together. Pero, to in layman's terms, for me, like, salsa es el barrio, la calle, es familia, es fiesta, es un diciembre, you know what I'm saying? And, fin de año, para mí, venezolano, yo nací en Venezuela, mamá colombiana, papá dominicano. So a bit of a mix. Pero en todos esos espacios se escucha la salsa, bro, y la salsa es parte de nuestro crecimiento, o sea, es la identidad, bro. You know what I mean? Yo lo decía el otro día, o sea, yo crecí, antes de saber que la salsa se llamaba salsa, ya yo estaba como que, mi papá me regaló una vez un cencerro, así chiquitico. It was a small little cowbell. I'll never forget, it was a silver. And, then he brought me some timbales, and I had, like, mi bongo, and so I would sit at home, with these records, before I knew it was called salsa, Hector, and Roberto Renes, Apollo Sound, Pania. I used to sit down and play along with these records before I knew it was called salsa. So I think, salsa goes beyond what the name is, you know what I'm saying? Because I think it's it runs in our blood. I talk about it all the time, generationally now. Like, the teenagers, might not be directly listening to this shit, but we could curse. Or leave that if you need to.
Say it again, man.
I don't know if they're listening to this shit, but like, real talk though, like, but they're in the car with their parents. And the parents are listening to it, and they, by inertia, are influenced by it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's where we're holding you responsible for this shit. That's exactly what I said at the beginning. I can't get these young kids to listen to salsa because they ain't gonna listen to it, but they won't listen to you. So that's why you're carrying the torch for us now.
Do you find it kind of like a nuisance when people say, "Oh, salsa, that's cleaning music"?
That's what?
Cleaning music.
Cleaning. I've never heard.
Yeah, so like you listen to salsa when you have to clean the house on Saturdays. Yeah.
Sí, pero eso porque agarran la escoba para bailar. You know what I'm saying?
There's a story.
Okay.
One of a few. Que the name salsa. Have you heard it? Where it comes from?
I like to hear it, because I've heard a couple things.
Okay. En Venezuela hay un DJ many years ago que tenía un show que se llamaba La Hora de la Salsa. Y en un show con Richie Ray and Bobby Cruz, that's where the whole thing sort of started taking place, because it wasn't salsa. La Hora de la Salsa es porque the show was sponsored by some Venezuelan salsa para cocinar.
Yeah, like the sponsor for the show, it was a salsa. Yeah.
La Hora de la Salsa. Somewhere along that situation, Bobby Cruz coined it. Well, our music is like your show, and mind you, I mean, I'm saying the story very different than, not different, but my little version of what Bobby Cruz would tell you. Bobby Cruz would tell you exactly how it happened. Pero within that conversation, Bobby Cruz dijo que esta música es más o menos como tu show, ¿sabes? Como tú dijiste ahorita, salsa es un nombre perfecto, porque cuando tú haces una salsa, tú le echas tomate, tú le echas cebolla, tú le echas... Entonces, y ahí tú ves, en aquella época, se estaban cogiendo los ritmos, que Tito Puente was the one that always said, decía, salsa, y hacía así, decía, salsa, tomate y goya, porque en esa época, se tocaba guaguancó, cha-cha-cha, guaracha, mambo, But when you take all that and you start fusing all that, like Larry was doing, and like Willie Colon was doing, and you're taking all that stuff and you're putting it in a pot, Joe Cuba, all those guys from that era, they really created a whole new thing. So we can't go back to saying this is mambo, because mambo's mambo. Cha-cha-cha, cha-cha-cha. Guaracha, guaracha. But salsa is salsa.
And what happened too is like, for example, like if you wanted to like, you know, like backwards engineering the whole thing, you know, it's like you will have the guiro pattern of like guaracha, and you will have the bass pattern of this thing. So that's kind of like what gave it its identity. Like all these different
Becomes one thing. You know, you take Motif está vestido de esa manera, yo estoy vestido todo de negro. If I take Motif's pants and he takes my shirt and you build another guy, another person, call it a different name, it's a combination of us two. It's no longer Motif and it's no longer Marlow. That doesn't exist anymore, even though it's heavily influenced.
It's Martif.
Right, Motif. So we got this new thing called Motif, que tiene las manos llenas, tan arriba de pearls and stuff, pero está todo vestido de negro, pero tiene los pantalones rojos. Entonces tú dices, oh no, you know, but that was Mambo. Or that was Marlow. That was Motif. Yeah, but it isn't anymore. Now it's, yeah, and that's what salsa is. So, cuando a mí me dicen que la salsa, que no, que si guaracha, que si guaguancó, listen, I love playing guaguancó. I love playing guaracha. I love playing cha-cha-cha. But when I play salsa, yo estoy tocando salsa. Yo no estoy tocando cha-cha-cha. I'm not doing taco, 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 taco. I'm not doing that, which is cha-cha.
Funny thing is that in a salsa song, you might have a section
Or you
where
can
it goes
throw
into that shit.
Yeah,
Or an intro where it has like guaguancó.
because it's
So that's the beautiful thing about it, and
that's why it's salsa. That's why it's salsa, because you can throw anything you want.
Yeah.
Is this why salsa artists are so versatile? They can actually play anything.
Oh, that's a good question. Because you know what? You're absolutely right. I always say, and even Latinos as musicians, we can jump into anything. We can go play gospel, un bajista, un pianista. We can go play un percusionista, un conguero. We can go play anything. You could throw us in a rock band. You could take uno de los guitarristas que yo conozco, que uno de mis guitarristas favoritos, es venezolano,
¿Cómo se llama?
Alex García. ¿Conoces a Alex? Alex es... Alex es... Él es el que me graba a mí todas las cosas. Alex es venezolano. Tú lo pones a tocar. I would dare you to call him out in the middle of a set with Aerosmith or with Kiss. Play it just like them. Ahora, búscate el pianista
No,
de
todo, y
cual-
con pero el sonido y todo, like, bro, dead on.
Ahora, busca el pianista más duro, norteamericano, americano puro, y ponlo a Montoya.
Hard.
That's us.
Hard.
Nobody can... we can mess with anybody's shit, and nobody can mess with ours.
Now, do you think that's part of like being born in the culture, like growing up in these environments?
I mean, 100%. I think it has a lot to do with that, and I think, you know, like I was saying before, I think it runs in our veins, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, without getting too nerdy about the shit, like there's a book called "This Is Your Brain on Music." Have you read it? That Daniel Levitin, "This Is Your Brain on Music," and in that book, it talks about how shit's passed on through DNA, bro, from our parents and our grandparents and shit like that. So I truly believe that shit comes in the blood. I mean, look, you know, for the past 3 years, we've been really, you know, going in, you know, with this responsibility, because I see it as a responsibility as far as the genre is concerned. Pero if we go back, like, you know, to the stuff that we did with, you know, with Wisin or Sammy Lennox or, you know, Jennifer Lopez or Gente de Zona, like the stuff that we've done on the urban side of things, if you strip all that stuff down, at the end of the day, ahí está la clave in all those songs. All those songs were written with la clave in mind. You know, when you go through my phone into the voice notes, and it could be, yo no necesito vacaciones, tengo de cabeza. You'll hear the clave, me singing the, you know, it becomes an urban record. And it plays in the, you know, urban clubs, and, you know, becomes a number one as an urban record. But it all comes from la clave. And I think, you know, it's something that we carry in our DNA.
You know, when I was in college, I made my little side money playing in black churches, playing piano. playing gospel music.
Man, that's fun.
There's
Right.
the example right there.
And they would pay me, I remember, $300 to play every Sunday. Every Sunday morning, I'd be there at 10 o'clock, practice with the choir. Oh yeah, I could play shouting music. I could play, R&B, gospel type of vibes.
It's exactly.
And then they would want me, oh, can you play a little Montuno? I'm like, yeah. And then the black musicians would like, yo, how do you play that? Oh shit, here you go, bro. Blah, blah, blah.
And you could teach them, but es una el jaladito
And
ese.
swing.
I mean, just like they might have their thing too, because you have, you see a African American drummer hit the drums, like in their pocket. It's like, wow, like, I probably wouldn't, would never be able to sit down and play hit the drums like that. You could probably make it happen, you know what I'm saying? But
We can make it happen.
yeah. I mean, I'm in the team of like, we could definitely sit down and do the job. Pero también ellos tienen su swing y su.
Sí, cada cual. Something very curious about clave. 99% of the time, clave is not in the song. Nobody's playing clave. It's the most important and the loudest thing you hear. And no one's playing.
It'll feel weird when it's not in clave. The shit will feel weird. Like, yo, that feels.
And everybody will come and start, right? Todo el mundo la oye. You hear, it's an ethereal thing. It's the soul. It really is the soul, because you don't really see the soul. You hear un tema de salsa y los trombones están en clave, las trompetas están en clave, la percusión en clave, el piano, el montuno del piano tiene que estar en clave, todo está en clave, but there's not a clave. No one is going ta pa 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 pa. No one's doing that. Good. What's up?
Volumen, ya tú sabes, ya, well, you know the rest. We're good on the volume.
Yeah. Yo creo que ya esto está. Y entró la voz. Ahora vamos a hacerlo con la trompeta. La pasamos súper bien ahora ahí haciendo la percusión, ¿verdad? Ahora vamos a beber un cafecito. Está perfecto, ¿verdad?
None of this would be possible without our D305 production team. So thank you guys for.
Thank you guys, D305. A little bit about Dímelo. Dímelo 305 is a brand, but it's also a media production company. So we're creating really dope stuff in the city. We've been around for 2.5 years.
Dope stuff.
Really dope stuff. How do you say dope in Spanish? Dope?
Encendido.
Encendido, there it is. In case y'all don't know,
encendido.
we're doing the first of its kind reality TV show documentary for social media. We're doing it with Marlow, kicking it off. He's our first artist. Super grateful for everything that you're doing. We've been hanging out with Marlow. First teaser came out today. It's dope. It's sexy. Go check it out. First episode should be coming out December. We're talking about it today. Mottif, man, pleasure to be hanging out with you. We have another concept coming out, a weekend in Miami with Dímelo 305. And Mottif is our first artist that we'll be hanging out with.
We gotta come back over here doing that too. You know, a good cigar, bro. A good cigar, a good conversation, a good drink, bro. Come on, man.
We should do. I mean, I don't want to like put you out there, but we should do this once a month and talk about, get a topic going and do this like ongoing.
Don't tempt us with a good time, bro. Don't tempt us.
Bro,
And
Dímelo
just like
305
attack
is
a
fun.
topic.
We're fun.
Like we talk about the most controversial shit and just go. We get the cigar, we get a drink.
Is Salsa dead? Yes. Oh, no.
No.
Oh, no. Want to kick it off? No?
So I believe the question was the last salsa revolution in New York, or is something else happening?
I think that personally, the first salsa revolution did happen in New York, with very much Puerto Rican influence. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think fast forward, the last salsa revolution that we had was maybe 30 years ago.
90s?
Yeah.
Okay.
And definitely influenced by the New York sound, the New York salsa, the Puerto Rican salsa led by Senor George. I think, DLG or something like that.
There was salsa has gone through a lot of metamorphosis, right? And it's been sort of, let's start by saying that the people, the listener, in my opinion, that have kept salsa alive, not the musicians, it's los colombianos y los peruanos. We gotta take off our hats to the, yeah. I'm talking about listeners.
Drop down. Yeah, let's lock.
Colombia y Peru.
Okay.
Also Venezuela, right? Son países extremely salseros. Santo Domingo.
Yeah.
But it's funny because every country has a little thing that they do. La salsa dominicana versus la salsa colombiana, very different. Para que tiene el oído para oír esa diferencia.
But going into that, specify that because, I mean, we can perceive it. The BPMs in DR, el saltico en Colombia,
El afinque en Puerto Rico, el pop en Nueva York, right? So New York, but the ping pong, the back and forth has been New York and Puerto Rico. So New York takes it and comes up with this very urban street sound.
Streets.
That was New York. I mean, who doesn't know? Ba-da-pa-pa, ba-da-pa-pa. That's New York. That Willie Colon trombone, that roughness of the New York salsa. Then it goes back to Puerto Rico. Y en Puerto Rico, a la misma vez, está Roberto Roena. Está el Gran Combo. Es más, un poquito más polished.
Ismael
Ismael Miranda. Ismael Rivera was way before. Ismael Miranda. Andy Montañez.
más como refinadito.
Más refinado, más afinque. En Puerto Rico tú no vas a tener mucho palo. Puerto Rico es salsa para el bailador. Then it goes back to New York, right? And then they take it to another place. In the 90s, when Sergio took salsa by storm, it became more pop, right? With Manía de Tito Nieves, cada noche, y cuando salió DOG, that was a new sound altogether. It's all salsa from New York. At the same time,
Have the urban element, a little reggae, a little hip hop.
Yeah, I like the urban
rapping
element.
in it,
New
right?
York,
Yeah.
New York, under the umbrella of Sergio George. At the same time, in Puerto Rico, you got something completely different. Eddie Santiago, que locura enamorarme
Sí,
yo
la salsa romántica.
de ti, right? And
Wow.
you're saying, and then you got
Jerry.
Jerry Rivera, cara de niño, and you got all these new young guys. Luis Enrique was more Puerto Rico, even though Luis Enrique hails from Miami, more Puerto Rico.
Bro, Luis Enrique came from here. Luis Enrique used to be a musician in Miami,
Yeah.
playing around Miami.
Ray Ruiz, here.
También.
Ray Ruiz used to play in a club called El Sweet Chateau. Se fue para Puerto Rico. They used to send them to Puerto Rico.
Why?
Composers like Jorge Luis Piloto,
Legend.
Omar Alfano.
Oh, man, legend.
Puerto Rico.
But why
If you-
would they go back to Puerto Rico, though?
Because they wanted that afinque classic salsa sound that was coming out of Puerto Rico. New York had its own thing. And New York has always been, we're New York.
How would you classify Frankie Ruiz? Is it romantic? Is it...
Frankie Ruiz, even though he's from Patterson, New Jersey, Frankie Ruiz was very Puerto Rico, very afinque. Yo soy la rueda. Pero viene de la escuela de Tommy Olivencia, because he was Tommy Olivencia's singer.
He started singing as a front singer, like they had like singers in the front, the
Yeah.
band, Tony University band, and he
For
used to be
Tommy.
a singer for the band.
Just like Gilberto and Tony Vega were los cantantes
Y Tito Nieves también.
Tito Nieves was clásico, right? And then Tony Vega y Gilberto were with Willie Rosario. Do you know that Willie Rosario is gigging every week and he's about to turn 100? He's like 98. You know that? Rafael Itiel is up in his 90s.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
he's 96, por ahí,
Por ahí.
97, por ahí.
These guys, they never stop, ever. ever. And they're hotter now than ever.
ETL is the founder for Gran Combo. Wow. Which I found out not too
I think
recently.
that's on Norberto Velez's show, right? They did a
El
gran,
Señor
gran com-
Mayor.
Yeah, El Señor, yeah.
Not too long ago, I found out a few years back that he comes from o sea, la historia de ETL is crazy, bro.
Era
Roberto Roena and
No, ETL they used to have a group before Gran Combo que era, coño, los mulatos del sabor se llamaban. I'm gonna sound like a rookie right now, but I'm forgetting the guy's name. Coño, it'll come to me. Pero it was Rafael ETL and everybody watching this is probably saying the name right now. Sorry.
Put it on the comments.
Yeah,
That's on the comments.
Put it on the comments.
it's not that I don't know
Let's help,
salsa.
let's help.
It's that I'm old and I forget shit. Pero de ahí fue que se desarrolló el Gran Combo. And we're talking about Puerto Rico and look at the difference between Eddie Santiago and DOG. It's almost like two different types of music.
Yes,
But they're both salsa. Y no estamos hablando de la influencia
no,
de
ya va.
los dos países.
Ya va. Porque en los 90 también estaba pasando en Venezuela adolescentes going ham. Porfi Baloa going
At the
ham en
same
Venezuela. Going ham, completely different sound.
And you being Venezuelan, who do you think they looked at? Were they looking at New York or Puerto Rico?
I mean, in my
developing their own sound.
No, y yo siento que, o sea, de la conversación las conversaciones con Porfi, bro, that guy, o sea, es un estudiante de la vieja. You know what I'm saying? So he took all that stuff from like the 60s, 70s, and you know the classical training that he had, and made his own mush.
But
his own salsa.
when they were when they were saying this is el patrón, where would you think they looked at?
Yo siento que Porfi no, en realidad no vio patrón como tal. O sea, obviamente estaba pasando lo que estaba pasando en Nueva York y en Puerto Rico, pero más allá de un patrón, yo creo que él, he took his studies and created his own.
En tu opinión, ¿cuáles son las dos salsas más clásicas que existen? Hay dos. And they're a lot easier to name than in my opinion. Los dos temas más brutales, que no importa donde tú los toques, la gente se los conoce. Salsa.
Para mí, cuando tú escuchas, ping, pong, ping,
That's one. What's the other one? You gotta hit the other one.
Llorarás.
That's it. Le dio los dos. Those are the two most heard songs. One is Colombian and one is Venezuelan. Fíjate, no son ni boricua. Llorarás y llorarás.
Does that ever get annoying as musicians in the sense of like having to placate to a certain audience? So let's say you're gonna have a gig here in Miami, right? And you start playing, I don't know, something that people may not know. But with the musicians, it's like, it's a dope song, it's great to play, great to sing. Does it ever become a nuisance where it's like, oh man, like we know you have to play Llorarás. You know you have to play.
It all depends who you're playing for. When I'm called to go do gigs outside of Miami, because I'm gonna go play at the John Coltrane Jazz Festival, or I'm gonna go play somewhere like that, I play my music because that's why they're hiring. But when I play in Miami and I'm hopping around the town, you can't leave Ball and Chain or Cuba Ocho, or you can't leave any of these clubs without playing Llorará, without playing Rebel. You gotta play that. Because
people always come up and they're like,
they want to
dance.
dance.
Can you play Llorará? Or you know, they
And
have
not to play that. Not to play that as a let's say a local Miami band would be not to give the people exactly what they want to hear.
Okay, it goes outside Miami. You know what I'm saying? Because like the salsa scene in LA, for example, you see it, and you hear it, you see the bands playing those songs. And
En Los Ángeles tú tienes que tocar la esencia del guaguancó. Tienes que tocar eso. For some reason, that's their big Llorará over there.
it's crazy how like everybody has their thing.
Because it's a different. I guess Mexico was probably listening to Puerto Rico more. You know what I'm saying? It's the way it works. It all depends what country you're from and who you were listening to. As Nicaraguans, when you guys were in Nicaragua, if you were listening to salsa, what were you listening to? Were you listening to New York stuff? Were you listening to Fania, Luis Enrique? So if you're listening to Luis Enrique, you're probably tienes la finca boricua because eso es Luis Enrique.
It's crazy. I was born here. I was born and raised. I was raised in North Carolina. So North Carolina is a huge, Mexican population. So to listen to salsa on the radio, that's not really a thing, right? But now with Spotify, now with Apple Music, now with these, different platforms, you're exposed to different types of genres. And then Spotify, I don't know about Apple Music, but it has that thing where it lists artists like this, listen to similar artists. So from there, you can jump into a whole rabbit hole, of different salsas that might be similar, Do you think the commercialization of salsa has been a good thing or a bad thing when it comes to the genre of salsa?
The
commercialization of
explain commercialization. It's a great thing.
So when we think about like the Mark Anthony's, maybe the most,
What's the market share, bro?
He
salsa today?
He is salsa, right? But do you think that sometimes when we listen to Mark Anthony's, people end up saying, "Oh, that's all salsa is"? We forget about Ismael Rivera, or we forget about Roberto Roena, or we forget about.
But remember that all the other names, all those names that you're naming, it comes down to education, bro. Cultural education. Maybe I'm stepping in a line by saying this, pero sabes, a la final del día, brother, es la educación y lo que te rodea. ¿Tú me entiendes? O sea, si tus padres, por ejemplo, o la gente con la que tú sabes, no te exponen, o sea, a tu alrededor tú no estás expuesto a Roena, no estás expuesto a Ismael, no estás expuesto a Fania, a Héctor. Se hace un poco difícil entender que hay un Héctor, hay un Willy Colón, hay un Héctor Lavoe, ¿sabes?
Bueno, en lo urbano es lo mismo. Is Vico C in the ears of my 19-year-old daughters? You know what I'm saying? We know and respect Vico as the godfather of all this, but my daughters don't know Vico C.
Like Bad Bunny.
They like Bad Bunny. And so Bad Bunny is the guy now. Vico C started this thing, many, many years ago.
Here on Dímelo 305, we gotta ask you, is there gonna be, am I gonna see a record, a Mottif record? Marlow, Mottif?
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
And if it is, we gotta be there.
And let me tell you,
I've been talking about that for quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
Let me throw a little lyric, a little word. You gotta say Dímelo somewhere in the song. Somewhere.
Hey, watch out, que a lo mejor hacemos el tema del canal.
That could be cool. This is the first episode that we do. So listen.
So let me tell you, we have been talking about that for quite a while.
Yeah.
Actually, before we started rolling, I was saying, I'm not gonna say what style.
Tell us what.
No.
Come on, tell us.
But I think that.
Dímelo.
Pero yo creo que it would be very
that's
unique if we did what we were talking about, because we would both be borrowing from a space that isn't ours. And it wouldn't be my style and it wouldn't be his style. It would be salsa, but we would be borrowing. We'd be entering another area. And I think that we can definitely put something out that can be very explosive and very changing for the industry, I think. Because there's already hints of that kind of music coming back. And I guess saying coming back sort of tells you what we're talking about. But
So what I love here is that we have clues, of what's gonna happen.
You guys gotta put this shit back together, like later on.
Cliffhangers, we're gonna have to open it up and see what it was, how much tomato.
Make it a part two.
We would like to say thank you, the both of you, for being part of this and trusting us to tell the story.
Don't tell me we're done. We're done.
this is too good, right?
Listen, just because the camera's turned on, don't mean we gotta stop. We gonna touch these right now. Listen, keep the party going.
I want no part. I want this on the record. I want no part of this.
Es spicy, my chichi.
Muchas gracias.
Yo no voy, no te preocupes, yo no voy. Yo me voy para casa, tranquila, no te preocupes.